In the tranquil town of Meadowbrook, life flowed gently amidst rolling hills and dense forests. The community thrived on familiarity, with residents cherishing their routines. Among them was a solitary man named Thorn, who had recently settled into a quaint cottage on the town's outskirts. Known for his reclusive nature, Thorn often wandered the woods, a distant look in his eyes. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the landscape, Thorn embarked on his usual walk through the forest. The air was filled with the scent of pine, and leaves rustled softly underfoot. Venturing deeper into the woods, he noticed an unusual glow emanating from a nearby clearing. Curiosity piqued, Thorn cautiously approached the light source. To his astonishment, he discovered a sleek, silver spacecraft nestled among the trees, its surface shimmering in the fading sunlight. The craft's smooth curves and otherworldly design were unlike anything he had ever seen. Before he could fully process the sight, a figure emerged from the craft. She stood tall, exuding an ethereal presence that took Thorn's breath away. Her skin bore a subtle iridescence, and her eyes glowed with a soft, luminescent blue. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to merge with the surrounding light. "Greetings," she spoke, her voice melodic and soothing. "I am Alara, from the planet Nithra. I come in peace." Thorn's heart raced, a mix of fear and fascination coursing through him. "I'm Thorn," he replied, his voice trembling slightly. "What brings you here?" Alara's expression softened, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I have traveled across the stars seeking refuge. My home was destroyed, and I am now the guardian of 5 orphan children for my world. We are the last of our kind." As if on cue, 5 smaller figures appeared behind Alara, their eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Each child had unique features, yet they all shared the same luminescent eyes and iridescent skin. Thorn felt a pang of empathy. "You must be exhausted. Please come with me. My home isn't far from here." Alara nodded gratefully, and together, they made their way back to Thorn's cottage. The children huddled close to Alara, their eyes darting around, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. Upon reaching the cottage, Thorn hurriedly prepared a meal, offering the visitors a selection of fruits, bread, and cheese. Alara and the children accepted the food with gratitude, their movements graceful and deliberate. As they ate, Thorn couldn't help but notice the way Alara's eyes lingered on the children, a mix of love and sorrow etched on her face. He felt an inexplicable urge to ease her burden, to offer comfort in any way he could. "Alara," Thorn began gently, "I can't imagine what you've been through, but you're safe here. You and the children can stay as long as you need." Tears welled up in Alara's eyes, and she reached out, placing a delicate hand on Thorn's. "Thank you, Thorn. Your kindness means more than words can express." In that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. 2 souls, worlds apart, brought together by fate and a shared desire to protect and nurture the innocent. In the days following Alara and the children's arrival, Thorn's once solitary cottage transformed into a lively haven. The presence of his extraterrestrial guests introduced new routines and challenges, fostering a sense of purpose and connection he hadn't felt in years. Each morning began with Thorn rising early to prepare breakfast. He quickly learned that his guests favored fresh fruits and vegetables, prompting him to stock up on these during his trips to the local market. Alara often joined him in the kitchen, her graceful movements turning meal preparation into a harmonious dance. On Nithra, we believed that sharing food strengthens bonds. Alara shared one morning, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft sunlight filtering through the window. Thorn smiled, handing her a bowl of freshly picked berries. "It's the same here. There's something special about coming together over a meal." As days turned into weeks, a routine developed. Alara transformed a corner of the cottage into a makeshift classroom, educating the children about Earth's customs and languages. Thorn often found himself drawn to these lessons, fascinated by the exchange of knowledge between their worlds. One evening, after the children had settled into bed, Thorn and Alara sat by the fireplace, the warm glow casting gentle shadows across the room. They shared stories of their pasts, finding solace in each other's experiences. Our cities were built among the trees, Elara reminisced, her voice tinged with melancholy. We lived in harmony with nature, drawing energy from the stars. Thorn listened intently, his heart aching for the loss she had endured. It sounds beautiful, he murmured. I'm sorry for what happened. Elara offered a sad smile. The pain is lessened by the kindness you've shown us. For that, I am eternally grateful. Their conversations deepened their connection, unspoken feelings beginning to blossom between them. Thorn found himself looking forward to their evenings together, cherishing the moments of shared vulnerability and understanding. However, the small town of Meadowbrook was not without its curiosities. Neighbors began to notice the changes around Thorn's cottage, the laughter of children, glimpses of unfamiliar faces. Whispers spread, and Thorn knew it was only a matter of time before questions arose. One afternoon, while purchasing supplies in town, his neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, approached him. A kind-hearted woman in her 60s, she was known for her keen observation. Thorn, she began, her tone gentle yet inquisitive, I've noticed you've had some visitors lately. New family members. Thorn hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Yes, some friends who needed a place to stay. They're from far away. Mrs. Whitaker's eyes twinkled with curiosity. Well, if they need anything, don't hesitate to let me know. We're a community, after all. Touched by her offer, Thorn nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. I'll keep that in mind. Back at the cottage, Thorn relayed the encounter to Elara. They both understood the importance of discretion, yet they also recognized the value of community support. We can't hide forever, Elara mused, her gaze distant. Perhaps it's time to introduce ourselves properly. Thorn agreed, and together, they devised a plan to gradually integrate Elara and the children into the community. They started by attending local events, where Alara's otherworldly appearance was explained as a cultural difference. The townspeople, though initially taken aback, were won over by Alara's grace and the children's charm. Through these interactions, trust blossomed. The community embraced the newcomers, offering assistance and friendship. Thorn's cottage became a hub of activity, filled with laughter and the warmth of human connection. In the midst of this newfound harmony, Thorn and Alara's bond deepened. They spent evenings sharing stories, their conversations flowing effortlessly. Unspoken feelings lingered between them, a delicate dance of emotions waiting to be acknowledged. As winter approached, the chill in the air brought them closer, both physically and emotionally. The warmth of the fireplace mirrored the growing warmth in their hearts, hinting at the possibility of a future intertwined by fate and affection. As winter settled over Meadowbrook, a serene blanket of snow transformed the town into a picturesque wonderland. The crisp air carried the scent of pine, and the soft crunch of footsteps on fresh snow became a familiar sound. Inside Thorn's cozy cottage, the warmth of the fireplace contrasted the chilly world outside, creating a haven of comfort and burgeoning emotions. The daily routines that Thorn and Elara had established continued to evolve, fostering a deeper connection between them. Mornings were filled with shared laughter as they prepared meals together, their movements synchronized in a dance of domestic harmony. The children, now more accustomed to their new environment, filled the home with joyful energy, their laughter echoing through the halls. One evening, after tucking the children into bed, Thorn and Elara found themselves alone in the living room. The flickering flames of the fireplace cast a gentle glow, illuminating the room with a soft, amber light. Thorn glanced at Elara, her iridescent skin shimmering in the firelight, and felt a warmth in his chest that had little to do with the hearth. Elara, he began, his voice gentle, I've been meaning to ask you something. She turned to him, her luminous blue eyes meeting his. What is it, Thorn? He hesitated, gathering his thoughts. You've shared so much about your world and your people, but I realize I don't know much about you personally. What was your life like before everything changed? A shadow passed over Alara's features, but she offered a small smile. I was a scientist on Nithara, dedicated to studying interstellar flora. Our planet was rich with diverse plant life, and I spent my days exploring and cataloging new species. Thorn listened intently, picturing Alara amidst alien landscapes, her passion for discovery evident. It sounds like you loved your work. She nodded, her gaze distant.
I did.
It was fulfilling, but my greatest joy came from my family. A silence settled between them, filled with unspoken sorrow. Thorn reached out, gently taking her hand in his. I'm sorry for your loss, Alara. She squeezed his hand, her touch warm and comforting. Thank you, Thorn. Your kindness has been a beacon in this dark time. As the days passed, their bond deepened. They spent evenings sharing stories, their conversations flowing effortlessly. Thorn found himself looking forward to these moments, cherishing the connection they were building. One night, as a snowstorm raged outside, Thorn and Alara sat close together on the couch, a thick blanket draped over their shoulders. The children were asleep, and the world felt cocooned in a serene silence. Thorn, Alara whispered, her head resting against his shoulder. Do you ever wonder about the future? He glanced down at her, his heart swelling with affection. I do, especially now. She lifted her head, their faces inches apart. And what do you see? He took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. I see a future where we're not alone, where we face whatever comes together. Tears glistened in Alara's eyes, and she leaned in, her lips brushing against his in a tender kiss. The world outside ceased to exist, leaving only the warmth of their embrace and the promise of a shared future. In the days that followed, their relationship blossomed, built on mutual respect, understanding, and a profound love that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Together, they faced the challenges of their unique situation, finding strength in their unity and the unwavering support of their community. As winter gave way to spring, the town of Meadowbrook stood as a testament to the power of compassion, acceptance, and the unbreakable bonds of love that can form between even the most unlikely of souls. One afternoon, a sleek black car rolled into town, drawing the attention of the locals. A man in a crisp suit stepped out, his demeanor exuding authority. Introducing himself as Agent Caldwell from a government agency, he began inquiring about recent unusual occurrences and any new residents. Mrs. Whitaker, ever the observant neighbor, recounted the arrival of Thorn's distant relatives and their seamless integration into the community. Her innocent disclosure piqued Agent Caldwell's interest, prompting him to pay a visit to Thorn's cottage. Thorn opened the door to find Agent Caldwell standing on his porch, a polite yet probing expression on his face. Good afternoon. Mr. Thorn, is it? Agent Caldwell began, extending a hand. Yes, that's right, Thorn replied, shaking his hand cautiously. How can I help you? I'm with a government agency investigating reports of unusual activity in the area. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Thorn's heart raced, but he maintained a calm exterior. Of course. Please come in. Inside, Alara and the children were engaged in their afternoon lessons. Sensing the tension, Alara rose to greet their guest, her serene demeanor masking the unease she felt. Agent Caldwell's eyes lingered on Alara and the children, noting their distinctive features. These must be your relatives, Mrs. Whitaker mentioned. Yes, Thorn affirmed. They've come to stay with me for a while. From where, if you don't mind me asking? Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. We're from a distant place, seeking refuge and a fresh start. Agent Caldwell studied her for a moment before nodding. I see. Well, if you notice anything unusual or need assistance, don't hesitate to contact us. After he left, the atmosphere in the cottage grew heavy with concern. Do you think he suspects? Alara asked, her luminous eyes reflecting worry. It's possible, Thorn admitted. We need to be cautious. Days turned into weeks, and Agent Caldwell's presence loomed over Meadowbrook. He conducted interviews, observed the family from a distance, and even attempted to engage the children in conversation. The once welcoming town grew tense under his scrutiny. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Thorn addressed the situation. "We can't continue like this," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We need to find a way to protect our family." Alara nodded. "Perhaps it's time to reveal the truth to those we trust." Together, they decided to confide in Mrs. Whitaker and a few other close neighbors. Inviting them over for tea, Thorn and Alara shared their story, the destruction of Nithra, their journey to Earth, and their desire to live peacefully among humans. Mrs. Whitaker listened intently, her eyes softening with empathy. "Oh, you poor dears. No wonder you've been so secretive." Another neighbor, Mr. Harris, chimed in. "We've come to care for you all. We'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Buoyed by their support, the community devised a plan to divert Agent Caldwell's attention. They provided alibis, shared fabricated stories, and ensured that Alara and the children were always surrounded by locals when Agent Caldwell was near. Frustrated by the lack of concrete evidence and the town's unwavering solidarity, Agent Caldwell eventually concluded his investigation, leaving Meadowbrook as quietly as he had arrived. The ordeal strengthened the bond between Thorn, Alara, and the community. Trust had been tested and proven resilient, paving the way for a future where differences were embraced and love transcended all barriers. One afternoon, a sleek black car rolled into town, drawing the attention of the locals. A man in a crisp suit stepped out, his demeanor exuding authority. Introducing himself as Agent Caldwell from a government agency, he began inquiring about recent unusual occurrences and any new residents. Mrs. Whitaker, ever the observant neighbor, recounted the arrival of Thorn's distant relatives and their seamless integration into the community. Her innocent disclosure piqued Agent Caldwell's interest, prompting him to pay a visit to Thorn's cottage. Thorn opened the door to find Agent Caldwell standing on his porch, a polite yet probing expression on his face. "Good afternoon. Mr. Thorn, is it?" Agent Caldwell began, extending a hand. "Yes, that's right," Thorn replied, shaking his hand cautiously. "How can I help you?" "I'm with a government agency investigating reports of unusual activity in the area. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" Thorn's heart raced, but he maintained a calm exterior. "Of course. Please come in." Inside, Alara and the children were engaged in their afternoon lessons. Sensing the tension, Alara rose to greet their guest, her serene demeanor masking the unease she felt. Agent Caldwell's eyes lingered on Alara and the children, noting their distinctive features. "These must be your relatives," Mrs. Whitaker mentioned. "Yes," Thorn affirmed. "They've come to stay with me for a while." "From where, if you don't mind me asking?" Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. "We're from a distant place, seeking refuge and a fresh start." Agent Caldwell studied her for a moment before nodding. "I see. Well, if you notice anything unusual or need assistance, don't hesitate to contact us." After he left, the atmosphere in the cottage grew heavy with concern. "Do you think he suspects?" Alara asked, her luminous eyes reflecting worry. "It's possible," Thorn admitted. "We need to be cautious." Days turned into weeks, and Agent Caldwell's presence loomed over Meadowbrook. He conducted interviews, observed the family from a distance, and even attempted to engage the children in conversation. The once welcoming town grew tense under his scrutiny. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Thorn addressed the situation. "We can't continue like this," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We need to find a way to protect our family." Alara nodded. "Perhaps it's time to reveal the truth to those we trust." Together, they decided to confide in Mrs. Whitaker and a few other close neighbors. Inviting them over for tea, Thorn and Alara shared their story, the destruction of Nithra, their journey to Earth, and their desire to live peacefully among humans. Mrs. Whitaker listened intently, her eyes softening with empathy. "Oh, you poor dears. No wonder you've been so secretive." Another neighbor, Mr. Harris, chimed in. "We've come to care for you all. We'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Buoyed by their support, the community devised a plan to divert Agent Caldwell's attention. They provided alibis, shared fabricated stories, and ensured that Alara and the children were always surrounded by locals when Agent Caldwell was near. Frustrated by the lack of concrete evidence and the town's unwavering solidarity, Agent Caldwell eventually concluded his investigation, leaving Meadowbrook as quietly as he had arrived. The ordeal strengthened the bond between Thorn, Alara, and the community. Trust had been tested and proven resilient, paving the way for a future where differences were embraced and love transcended all barriers. With Agent Caldwell's departure, a renewed sense of peace settled over Meadowbrook. The community's unwavering support had fortified the bond between Thorn, Alara, and the townspeople, creating an environment where differences were not just tolerated but celebrated. As spring transitioned into summer, the once reclusive Thorn found himself immersed in the vibrant tapestry of community life. Alara and the children became integral members of Meadowbrook, participating in local events and forging deep connections with their neighbors. The town's acceptance allowed them to shed the remnants of their past fears and embrace the present fully. One warm evening, the town gathered for the annual Summer Solstice Festival, a celebration of renewal and unity. The central square buzzed with laughter, music, and the tantalizing aroma of diverse cuisines. Children dashed about, their joyous squeals echoing against the backdrop of twilight hues. Thorn stood at the edge of the festivities, observing the scene with a contented smile. His gaze settled on Alara, who was engaged in animated conversation with Mrs. Whitaker and Mr. Harris. The soft glow of lanterns illuminated her iridescent skin, highlighting the serene joy that had become a permanent feature of her expression. Sensing his gaze, Alara excused herself and approached Thorn, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the evening. "Enjoying the view?" she teased gently. "Immensely," Thorn replied, his voice filled with affection. "It's remarkable how much has changed in such a short time." Alara nodded, her hand finding his. "Thanks to you and this wonderful community, we've found a home." They stood in comfortable silence, the symphony of the festival enveloping them. After a moment, Thorn took a deep breath, turning to face Alara fully. "Alara, there's something I've been meaning to ask you." Her luminescent eyes met his, curiosity mingling with anticipation. "What is it, Thorn?" He reached into his pocket, retrieving a small, intricately crafted pendant, a fusion of earthly metals and Nithran design, symbolizing the union of their worlds. "I know our journey together began under extraordinary circumstances," Thorn began, his voice steady yet laced with emotion. "But these past months have shown me the depth of our connection and the strength of our partnership. I can't imagine my life without you and the children." Alara's breath caught, tears shimmering in her eyes as she grasped the significance of his words. "Alara," Thorn continued, holding out the pendant, "will you marry me? Will you allow me the honor of being a father to your children and a partner to you as we continue to build this life together?" A radiant smile broke across Alara's face, her tears spilling over as she nodded. "Yes, Thorn. Nothing would make me happier." The surrounding crowd, sensing the intimate moment, erupted into cheers and applause. The children rushed forward, enveloping Thorn and Alara in jubilant embraces. Mrs. Whitaker dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, while Mr. Harris clapped Thorn on the back, offering hearty congratulations. The festival transformed into an impromptu engagement celebration, with music and dancing carrying on late into the night. Under the starlit sky, Thorn and Alara swayed together, their hearts beating in unison. "Our journey has been unconventional," Alara whispered, resting her head against Thorn's chest. "But it's ours," Thorn replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "And I wouldn't have it any other way." As they held each other close, the challenges of the past faded into the background, overshadowed by the promise of a future filled with love, unity, and the unwavering support of a community that had become family. In the heart of Meadowbrook, beneath the vast expanse of the universe that had once separated them, Thorn and Alara embarked on a new chapter, one defined not by their differences, but by the profound love that had brought them together. The days following Thorn and Alara's engagement were filled with joyous preparations. The Meadowbrook community, eager to celebrate the union that symbolized unity and acceptance, rallied together to organize a wedding that blended both earthly and Nithran traditions. Alara introduced the concept of the Aglanate, a Nithran ceremony signifying the merging of souls. Incorporating this into their wedding plans, the couple decided to hold the ceremony in the town's central garden, where earthly flora intertwined with transplanted Nithran plants, symbolizing the harmony between their worlds. On the day of the wedding, the sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the assembled guests. Thorn stood at the altar, his heart pounding with anticipation. He wore traditional Nithran attire, a flowing garment that shimmered with iridescent hues, honoring Alara's heritage. As the ceremony commenced, Alara walked down the aisle, accompanied by the children, who scattered petals from both worlds along her path. Her gown, a fusion of Nithran and earthly designs, flowed gracefully, and her luminous eyes locked onto Thorn's, conveying a depth of love and commitment that transcended words. The officiant, a respected elder from Meadowbrook, began the ceremony by acknowledging the unique union. Today, we witness not just the joining of two individuals, but the merging of two worlds. May this union serve as a beacon of hope and unity for all. Thorn and Alara exchanged vows, each speaking in both their native languages, symbolizing their commitment to embracing each other's cultures. As they placed rings upon each other's fingers, a gentle breeze rustled through the garden, as if the universe itself blessed their union. Following the ceremony, the celebration continued with a feast that showcased a blend of earthly and Nithran cuisines. Music from both cultures filled the air, and guests danced beneath the stars, reveling in the joyous occasion. As the night drew to a close, Thorn and Alara stood hand in hand, gazing up at the vast expanse of the sky. The stars shimmered brightly, a reminder of the journey that had brought them together. "We've come so far," Thorn murmured, his thumb gently caressing Alara's hand. "And we have so much further to go," Alara replied, her voice filled with hope. In the months that followed, Thorn and Alara continued to build their life together, their home becoming a sanctuary where earthly and Nithran cultures coexisted harmoniously. The children thrived, embracing the richness of both worlds, and the Meadowbrook community remained a steadfast pillar of support. Their story spread beyond the confines of their town, inspiring others to look beyond differences and find common ground. Thorn and Alara were invited to share their experiences at various forums, advocating for unity and understanding between diverse cultures. One evening, as they sat together on their porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Thorn turned to Alara with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," he began, "about how our journey could help others. Perhaps we could establish a foundation, a place where beings from different worlds can come together, learn from each other, and find solace." Alara's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "A sanctuary for unity and learning. I love that idea." With the support of their community, Thorn and Alara founded the Interworld Harmony Institute, dedicated to fostering understanding and cooperation between diverse species. The institute offered educational programs, cultural exchanges, and served as a refuge for those seeking acceptance. As the institute flourished, Thorn and Alara's family grew, both with the addition of their own children and those they welcomed into their home through the institute's outreach programs. Their lives, once marked by solitude and loss, now overflowed with love, purpose, and a profound sense of fulfillment. In the quiet moments, when the house was filled with the soft sounds of contentment, Thorn would reflect on the serendipitous encounter that had forever altered the course of his life. He marveled at the resilience of love, how it could bridge the vastest of chasms and unite even the most disparate of souls. Alara, too, found solace in their journey. From the depths of despair, she had found a partner who cherished her, children who brought joy to her days, and a community that embraced her unconditionally. Her heart, once heavy with the weight of loss, now soared with the promise of a future brimming with hope and endless possibilities. Together, Thorn and Alara exemplified the transformative power of love and acceptance, proving that even in the face of adversity, unity could pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. And so, under the same starlit sky that had witnessed their first meeting, they continued their journey, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the universe had in store, knowing that together they could overcome any challenge and that their love would forever be a guiding light in the vast expanse of existence.